The 2025 Roland Garros final between Sinner and Alcaraz will go down as one of the greatest matches in tennis history. We are blessed to see tennis at the absolute highest level, and this was the first time Sinner and Alcaraz faced each other in the final of a slam, and hopefully there are going to be many more finals. Now, when it comes to sportsmanship, these two guys set such a phenomenal example for everyone else that plays tennis, because not only are they very gracious and humble in their trophy ceremony speeches and the post-match interviews, but when there's a tight call in the match, even in a super important part of the match, these guys don't shy away from wiping down the mark and conceding the point. And I think it's a phenomenal example of how sports should be played, and that's fairly. Now, sports are not always fair. They can be quite cruel. And I'm going to mark this match down as one of the most brutal losses in not only Roland Garros history, but tennis history altogether. This was an absolute heartbreaker for Jannik. And interestingly, two other Roland Garros finals that I can compare this match to was the 1984 Roland Garros final between McEnroe and Lendl, where McEnroe was up 2-0, and he had chances in each one of the following sets to win. He was up 4-2 in the fourth set against Lendl. He ended up losing 7-5 in the fifth. And there was also the final between Coria and Gaudio in 2004, where Coria came into the match as the favorite, one of the best, if not the best, clay court player. Won that first set 6-0, was up 2-0, was serving at 4-all in the third, up 40-15. And interestingly, the crowd started to encourage Gaudio, and that kind of flipped the momentum of this match. And he ended up losing this match 8-6 in the fifth, and was serving for the match at 5-4. And he was also serving for the match at 6-5, where he had 2 match points, eventually losing it 6-8 in the fifth set. And in many of my previous videos, I talked about tennis being fair in a sense where you are gonna lose matches that you should have won. And over the course of a long tennis career, independent of level, you are going to win an equal amount of matches that you should have lost. And I call that tennis equilibrium. However, there is an outlier. When you lose a match that's extremely important to you, where you have the feeling that you might not get another chance to win a match of that importance, that can have a devastating effect on your tennis career if you happen to lose such a match. In the case of Coria, this certainly destroyed his tennis career, and he was never the same player after losing this match. In the case of McEnroe, this did not destroy his tennis career. He played well after losing to Lendl. However, 40 years later, as McEnroe said many times, he still thinks about this match. Now, will this be the case for Jannik Sinner, who was up 2-1, 5-3, love 40 on the Alcaraz serve, and then was serving for the match up 5-4. Will his career get affected by this loss? I don't think so. There's no evidence to support that Jannik Sinner lets losses linger. However, there will be an effect. We have to watch Jannik play in the following months to see if there's a decrease in form. I don't foresee it happening. I could easily see Jannik Sinner playing well in Wimbledon as one of the favorites to win the title. I haven't thought about who I'm going to pick. Let's discuss the grass court season in a later video. But in any case, this loss will certainly stay with Jannik for a while because he had Carlos in this match. But as I've been discussing for the last 2 weeks, Jannik Sinner is the #1 player in the world up to this match. Maybe things are going to change now. I do think that these matches have a strong effect on the future because tennis is all about confidence. And you get confidence in tennis by winning important tennis matches. But up to this match, Jannik Sinner was the best tennis player in the world, and he's certainly going to hang on to that #1 ranking even after this loss. But on the clay courts, it's a little bit different, and Carlos Alcaraz is the favorite. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper into their matchup, and there are a few more scenarios where Carlos Alcaraz has an advantage. It's not all about clay. So Carlos Alcaraz has now proven that he's unbelievably clutch. Not only in best of 3 matches, but most impressively in best of 5 matches. And I read a stat today that's mind-boggling. Carlos Alcaraz is 12-2 in final set tiebreak. So when it comes down to a final set tiebreak, Carlos Alcaraz is the absolute boss and just raises his level in a sense where he just stops missing balls. So when Jannik Sinner plays Carlos Alcaraz, if the match gets tight, independent of surface, there is an advantage for Alcaraz. Another factor where Carlos Alcaraz has an advantage over Sinner are best of 5 matches, because as I discussed in these 2 weeks, Carlos Alcaraz has ups and downs, and he certainly needs to find his top level to have a chance against Sinner, who is the more stable and consistent player of the two, not only throughout the season, but also in each specific match. Jannik Sinner is the more stable player. So in a best of 3 match, if Carlos Alcaraz is up and down, advantage Sinner. But a best of 5 match gives Carlos Alcaraz more chances to fight back if he happens to play a more up and down match. And last but not least, if you look at comment sections, if you listen to the crowd when Alcaraz plays against Sinner, or generally when Sinner plays compared to Alcaraz, Alcaraz is the crowd favorite everywhere in the world except when they play in Italy. And I do think that the fact that Carlos has possibly the more exciting game, many people like Carlos's game more because it's more versatile. I personally don't. I like both of these guys equally. But from the hundreds of comments that I've read, people love Carlos Alcaraz. And you can sense that when you watch him play, where he plays for the crowd, and then when he does something spectacular or when he comes back in a match, the crowd erupts, and Carlos Alcaraz draws energy from the crowd and starts performing even better. And I think all these additional factors that I just mentioned played a role in today's match. So let's break down set by set what happened in this match. So this match started like a video game. Both guys absolutely blasting the ball back and forth, and the first game lasted 12 minutes. And Alcaraz was sharp very early on, but so was Sinner. And Alcaraz got the first break. Sinner broke right back. And as we got closer to the end of the first set, we started again seeing some difficulty that Alcaraz was having with touch shots. Not only missed drop shots, but also missed volleys, and more specifically missed field volleys. And there were a lot of similarities in the first set against Sinner in the final and the semifinal match against Musetti, where Alcaraz not only had trouble with his feel, but he also lost his serve trying to stay in the set at 4-5. So now Sinner is up a set, and he's clearly the better player in the second set. And Sinner was up 6-4, 5-2 in this match. And the feeling that I had was that the crowd was sensing that this was going to be a straight set victory for Sinner at this point. I certainly had that thought as well. It looked like Sinner was going to absolutely destroy Alcaraz in this final. So the crowd was very eager to see a more competitive match, but the crowd generally supports Alcaraz a little bit more. So Sinner had a huge opportunity in the second set to keep the crowd out of this match, but he wasn't able to do that because serving for the set at 5-3, he lost his serve, and at that moment in time, Alcaraz was back in this match, and also the crowd now was fully engaged in this match. And now Carlos was pumped up, and we saw a high quality of play towards the end of that second set. And we got into a tiebreak, and Sinner played phenomenally well in this tiebreak, and now he's up 2-0, and he breaks in the first game of the third set. So he's up 2-0 and up a break. But I think looking back at this match, this was another opportunity wasted for Sinner. So he was up a break serving for the second set, and he also broke early in the third and then squandered his serve right away, and Alcaraz got a re-break. Now, once Alcaraz broke back in that third set, his level of play was very high, and at the same time, Sinner started producing some errors here and there. So Alcaraz broke, was serving for that third set at 5-3, only to lose his serve. And now Sinner was serving down 5-4 in the third to stay in the third set. But Alcaraz re-breaks, and again, the crowd goes absolutely crazy. Now, the fourth set featured an insane level of play early on, with both players holding serve and playing exceptionally well. At 3-all, Sinner breaks to love, holds serve, and now he's up 5-3, love 40. So that sequence of 3 games, Sinner played tennis from another planet, and he was only 1 point away from winning this match. And I certainly was sure that Sinner was going to win this one. But you got to give Carlos Alcaraz so much credit. After the match, he said that he didn't really think about anything but just to fight and play each point one at a time. So Sinner, on the very first match point where it was love 40, he had a look at a forehand. It was a defensive forehand, and he missed it long by a little bit. The second match point was frustrating for Sinner because Alcaraz made a wild first serve mistake and missed it by a ton, and he gave him a second serve, and Sinner missed the backhand return. On the third match point, Sinner got into a rally and got a forehand in the middle of the court, and I think Sinner is going to have that particular match point play back in his head over and over again, because we know that Sinner can hit a forehand winner from that court position with his eyes closed, but he didn't. He hit that forehand into the Alcaraz forehand. Alcaraz hit a strong defensive shot, and Sinner had to retrieve, and he was falling back and dumped the forehand into the net. And now again, the crowd was going absolutely crazy for Alcaraz, understandably so, and Alcaraz got pumped up, gained a lot of confidence from saving 3 match points, and played 2 exceptional points to hold and make Sinner serve out this match at 5-4, which he couldn't do. Alcaraz now raised his level again and was playing phenomenally well. And interestingly, it was Sinner now who started producing more mistakes at the end of the fourth set, and Alcaraz wasn't missing a single ball. This guy is so incredibly clutch when it comes to tie breaks, with the exception of the Olympic final against Djokovic last year. But in any case, Alcaraz wins that 4-set tiebreak, and now we're in the 5th set. And I'm sure that everybody at this point thought that Alcaraz was going to win this match, and he broke early in that 5th, held serve all the way to 5-4 in the 5th. And this is where you got to give Sinner a lot of credit, because it looked like he was exhausted in that 5th set. That's why I said in the beginning of the video that if the match goes to distance, this is an advantage for Alcaraz. Sinner looked gassed in this 5th set, and he looked like he was struggling physically, maybe with cramps. And at the same time, Carlos Alcaraz looked like he could play a 6th or a 7th set. At least that's what it looked like to me. So when the match extends into 4 hours or 5 hours, there's a big advantage for Alcaraz. But nevertheless, Jannik Sinner showed how much of a fighter he is, and miraculously broke Alcaraz and extended this match. As surprised I was for Sinner to not convert on those match points, I was equally surprised that Sinner was able to break Alcaraz's serve when he was serving for the match. And now we enter the epic portion of the match, 5-all in the 5th set. These guys have been out there for 5 hours, and Jannik Sinner again got himself very close to winning this match. Held serve, was up 6-5, and had chances in that 6-5 game where Alcaraz was serving to win this match again. But Alcaraz showed how much of a genius he is, not only with coming up at shots in emergency situations. There was one instance in the tiebreak where Carlos Alcaraz hit a swing volley while moving backwards, an unbelievable shot to pull off in a tiebreak. But also his defensive skills are extraordinary. Not only having the capability of putting balls back in play, even off center overheads, but also being able to hit passing shots and make power from defensive positions. Yes, Jannik Sinner is spectacular at defense as well, but when it comes to clay courts, Carlos Alcaraz is more crafty compared to Sinner, and that showed towards the very end of this match. And again, what's so impressive about Alcaraz is how big time he is when it comes to final set tiebreaks. In this 5th set tiebreak that was played up to 10, Carlos Alcaraz was simply not missing any balls and playing Djokovic-style tennis. And what's so confusing about Alcaraz is that he doesn't always play like that. I've talked many times how Alcaraz likes to blast the ball and take low percentage attempts, and his level is generally up and down, but throw that out of the window when it comes to deciding set tiebreaks, because Carlos Alcaraz doesn't appear to miss anything and finds his absolute best tennis when it matters the most. Now let's talk about how this could possibly affect both of the players going forward. So as I've been saying in these 2 weeks, Carlos Alcaraz is playing the best tennis of his life. Can we call this a clay court rampage? I think we can, actually. Even though he lost the Barcelona final, this is quite a rampage that he pulled off on the clay courts. So looking forward, I think Carlos Alcaraz is going to continue to play more consistent tennis, even on hard court. Regarding Sinner, he lost an absolute heartbreaker, but as I said in the beginning, while he might remember this match for the rest of his life, I don't necessarily see him as a player who's affected by a loss like that. I think he's going to process this, focus on the grass court season, and it certainly helps to have a calming voice like Darren Cahill to talk to you after a match like this. So I think Jannik Sinner is going to be fine. I think one thing that he can be proud of is how he fought back in that fifth set. He gave himself another chance to win this match after blowing all those leads that he had in the second set to keep the crowd out of it, early in the third, of course in the fourth with the 3 match points, and also up 6-5 in the fifth. So this is a brutal loss. It's going to hurt for a while, but I think Jannik Sinner is going to be okay. We're lucky to have these 2 guys at the top of the game. That was such a fun match to watch, and I rate it as one of the best matches that I've ever seen. I want to thank all of you for all the engagement during these 2 weeks. This was certainly a fun Roland Garros tournament. I'm going to do a live tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time. I did this after the Australian Open. We can talk about Roland Garros, or we can talk about any other topic that you want. So tune in tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, for an Intuitive Tennis live Q&A session. Also, we witnessed tennis level that was from another planet. I don't think you can play tennis much better than that. So now it's time to get back to reality. Let's reduce the level by 1,000 degrees. So I have a very interesting match of myself where I played a former student of mine. And let's just say that both of us didn't perform well on this particular day. It was unbelievably hot. It was super windy. But I was mic'd during this match, and I think it's an interesting match that can provide some value. Some of the mistakes that I've done in this match, or some of the mistakes that my opponent committed, these can be valuable lessons for everyone. So on Tuesday, I'm releasing a match that has, quite frankly, the opposite quality of what we saw today at Roland Garros.